What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an apologetic. Or is that an apologist? Anyway, Alexander the Great, my favorite apologist, is in the house today live.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Okay, 4 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock on this, the 27th day of November in the Lord's year 2012. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and man, everything is just so, I mean, I'm telling you today, it's like, and then everything fit, and the funnel, and it flowed like, and just bang. It's been a goofy day today.
Bang?
Bang. That's good. Father Tattoo's child is sick. And I think that is the one, there's two reasons you miss work. My kid's sick, and I got to stay home with him. Because to me, I don't know if there's, the only thing more legitimate is I'm dead. And then I want a 3-day notice.
Well, I usually say I have to go to court.
Oh, well, yeah. But see, you're in trouble a lot, so, you have to do that. But so anyway, he tried to find somebody to produce the show today, and we got my first choice. So we've got Ryan here today, who remember Ryan, when you produced the Rebels Cause, do they let you talk?
Yes.
Okay, because here we want you to talk.
Okay.
You're encouraged to talk here.
Sweet.
All right. Bob Monster at the Cat in the Hat, watching the chat at theviewfromapew.com. You can jump on and give us chats. Also, Army Brad in the house today. And my favorite apologist, did I get that right?
That works.
All right. My favorite apologist, Alexander the Great, who hails from the great city of Ames still.
Correct.
But you adorn new jewelry since the last time we saw each other.
Indeed. My left hand is a bit heavier than the last time.
That's right. He's got a ball and chain, a wedding ring on, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now, you and this young lady were long distance for a long time, right?
Yeah, it was about a 2-year relationship, off and on for a little bit, mostly on. She was in California. I went out there on a campus ministry trip a couple years ago, met her, and struck up a friendship. And she came all the way to Iowa from California, braving the sub-freezing weather.
Is she a California girl?
She is, born and raised.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So she's now experiencing the coldest weather she's probably ever had.
Yes.
How's she doing?
She's doing okay.
Doing as well as she can.
Yeah. On the way home last night, she tweeted that it was so cold in her car that she could see her breath in her car, which is a new phenomenon for her. Mm-hmm. Usually, in California, they have snow, but it's up in the mountains. So
right. Where in California is she coming from?
She's from the northern part of California, near Sacramento.
Not as bad, but still pretty
bad.
But
they have to go to the snow.
Right.
And they always talk about, we're going to the snow this weekend. That's the big deal.
Yeah.
But here, the snow comes to you,
her.
obviously.
And doesn't go away.
Right. And it's here for a long time.
What's her name again?
Her name is Emily.
Emily. I met you, and you're just darling. And besides that, you married one of my favorite guys, so I just have to love you. But if you need a driving lesson to how to drive in the snow, I don't care if you have never gotten a ticket, and if you have a perfect driving record and you're a great driver, driving in the snow is a whole new deal. Now, what about her tires?
Actually, funny story. Our honeymoon was in Colorado.
Okay.
And it snowed that week. 2 nights in a row there was snow. The first night there was like 5 inches. Second night
a sign of things to come.
Indeed. So we baptized her by fire with that experience.
Okay.
But she had some iffy tires at best. We'll put it that way. Because I flew out there, we got married, we drove her car to Colorado, did the honeymoon, then we drove the rest of the way to Iowa.
Okay.
So while we were there, we were driving around in her car. On Wednesday night, it snowed, and her tires were not good. And it's a rear-wheel drive vehicle, too.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the next day, we went to Big O Tires in the area, and we got some snow tires on the back. So she's set for this winter, and we'll get some summer tires on later on.
Get her some sand bags in the trunk and stuff. So
Yep.
Because that could ruin the relationship.
Yeah, that could.
It could be like
could be detrimental.
I'm not living here.
Right.
So. But you'd follow her to the ends of the earth, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
I know you would. All
but
right.
she already said that she would follow me, and she has. So
Yeah.
I think she's kind of stuck.
She's done her, but you want to make sure she doesn't get stuck.
Yeah.
And hopefully we won't have one of those Iowa winters, because my wife, North Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, she was raised in this area, so she's always been around snow. But when the snow comes early and it hangs around too long, my wife gets irritable because she hates it. And she hates it on the first day. You can imagine how she thinks about it on the 90th day. So anyway, well, all right. Tell me how you would define an apologist.
How I would define an apologist? Well, the Greek word apologia is the word from whence we derive the word apologist or apologetics. And it basically means a defense, to be able to defend that in which you believe. So as a Christian apologist, we are defenders of the Christian faith. And oftentimes you hear the phrase defender of the faith or whatever.
Right.
Now in the ancient Christian days, that kind of meant you had your sword and you kill people that don't necessarily believe what you do. But
Sure.
in nowadays, defenders of the faith would be people that, as the Bible puts it, cast down arguments that exalt themselves against the knowledge of God. And so we take these arguments that atheists and agnostics have against and other theists of other persuasions, and we cast down their arguments against the arguments against Christianity.
All right. Now, so could I be an apologist for college football?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So apologist is a definition, not points in one direction.
Right, correct.
Right.
And there are apologists. There are Jewish apologists. There's Muslim apologists. There's atheistic apologists. I would, Richard Dawkins would be an atheist apologist.
Okay.
He apologizes. He defends the atheistic perspective.
Dead, isn't he?
That's Steve. That would be Christopher Hitchens.
Oh,
is
that's
dead.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of Chris Roloff's favorite people.
Right.
All right. So, is this? Do you feel that this is a gift, a spiritual gift God has given you, or is this a skill that you have self-acquired?
I think it probably is a gifting that God has enabled me to use for Him. I would look at it as a calling as well.
Okay.
I think that God has given me this ability, I guess, for lack of a better term, and has entrusted me with doing this sort of work. It's kind of a ministry, I would say.
Now, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, as far as apologetics, is it used more frequently with non-believers, or is it equal with believers?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that it's used both. I would say I use it with believers as well. I work in campus ministry. A lot of times, college students struggle with their faith because they're hearing ideas, from all these different persuasions. And so a lot of times I'll get questions asked by college students about particular things. And so being able to give an answer for the thing that we put our hope in is very important against non-believers, but also for believers, to encourage them in their faith and give them a reason for the hope that they have. So that's a great question.
But you're also going to have people within the Christian, and because they're different denominations, that are going to disagree with where you're coming from.
Right. Those would be more like theological issues than apologetical issues,
But
I would say.
But still a disagreement.
Yeah. So I mean, same principles would apply as far as basic logic and reason for and theologically.
Why you believe what you
deciphering-
believe
right.
and why you don't believe what they believe.
Right. Yeah.
But I think there'd be a
absolutely.
difference between like almost like a heretic and overall Christianity. I think there's the foundations are still pretty much there. Would you agree?
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Andy Alexander, we call him Alexander the Great. Now the lesser half to the Alexander family.
Indeed.
Emily, of course. Bob Monster at the Cat in the Hat watching the chat. And, of course, Army Brad Ryan is in the production booth today. If you have any questions, you may reach us at 1-855-244-0077. Locally, just dial 244-0077. We'd love to have your comment. Maybe you've got a question. Maybe you have that favorite, and I use that term loosely, atheist in your life, that person who sits in the cubicle down the hall from you, or someone at a Boy Scout meeting that you attend with your son, or somebody that you have to deal with in the family. Maybe you have to deal with, maybe they came and they kicked your behind over Thanksgiving because they were just smart alecks. Because most atheists are also progressives and liberals, so they're riding high because they just won this election. But you're going to deal with them on Christmas, and you'd like to know how to deal with them better. And Andy can certainly help you. Now, what is your education?
I went to a Bible college in California,
Okay.
and I spent 4 years there and got a foundational education in theology.
Okay, nothing to do with apologetics.
There were small tastes of apologetic stuff that we got into,
Okay.
but primarily just Christian theology.
Okay.
And then I'm still in school now. I'm going to DMAC in Iowa State. DMAC because it's cheaper, and also because I'm trying to start a campus ministry group there. And I'm ultimately I am going to finish Iowa State with a bachelor's in classical studies, which is ancient Greek and Roman history
Okay.
and everything to do with the ancient Greek and Roman civilization. So I'll study a lot of Greek, a lot of Latin, philosophy, things of that nature. The cool thing about that is you're studying the biblical historical context of the time period surrounding the Bible. Because the Greek and Roman cultures led up to the time of Jesus, the time of the New Testament. And so that is, there's a lot of things that I've learned in my classes, even though we're not specifically looking at it from a biblical perspective, there's still a lot of things in there that pertain to the Bible and the New Testament, especially because of the cultural context that's surrounding the Bible. And so that is the exciting part to me about it. And then after I'm done there, I'm going to move on probably to a master's degree in apologetics, probably.
Do you see yourself as a professor one day
That would be cool.
at a Bible college?
That would be cool. I mean, I like teaching. I teach at my church on a regular basis, and I find that very fulfilling. So I would love to do that if that opportunity came my way. Yeah.
Now, you said that you love Roman history.
Right.
Finally, Bob, somebody we can ask that $1 million question to.
Uh-oh.
We've been waiting for how many years to ask somebody this question? Was it really built in a day?
No.
No. So it's true when they say Rome wasn't built in a day.
Correct.
Okay. I
thought that was going to be a hard question.
it wasn't. You knew that right off the top of your head.
Yeah, it's pretty well.
Didn't have to Google that.
Yeah,
Maybe
no,
documented.
No, it's
Yeah.
well
All right.
documented.
No,
yeah.
I think everything that he's studying is excellent because that helps you to even understand the Bible.
Absolutely.
Since it was Greek,
Yeah.
and a lot of it's written in the New Testament. But to have that knowledge and have that background, it's enlightening. I think it's exciting to
Oh, yeah.
be able to see, when you see that, knowing what you know about the Bible, and then learning about where the Greeks are coming from or the Romans or whatever.
Yeah. What's the Bible or the website? Blue. There's a website that you can look. You can put a word in, and it'll tell you what the Greek and the Hebrew. Blue.
Blue Letter Bible.
Yeah, Blue
Yeah.
Letter Bible.
Yeah.
I
got
love
the-
that.
I got the app. It's a great app.
Yeah, learn about the different stuff. All right, when we come back, I'm going to start asking questions. So far, you said the one I asked was real easy. I guess we're going to have to get tougher on Mr. Alexander, aren't we?
We can't get that.
Husband of Emily, live here on The View from a Pew, powered by webcast1live.com on KTIA, Iowa.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Have you ever been told you're not a good enough Christian? Well, we have too. Join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. Now here's your host, president of the Not a Good Enough Christian Club, J. Michael McCoy.
Okay, we're back 21 minutes after the hour on the 27th day of November. And, you know, I hope you know, and if you know me or have been listening to the show long enough, by the way, if this is your first time listening, thank you. I know there's lots of choices at 3 o'clock in the afternoon you can have, a lot of things you can podcast. You don't even have to be adjusted to a live schedule, but for some reason you've chosen to, you know, listen or watch us now. Or if you're listening or watching this on a podcast, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really do. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Sitting here in all this stuff and having nobody listen and interact is not a good, well, so I wouldn't do that.
Even when I'm not here, I listen.
Yes, thank you. And I know you do. I appreciate that. You listen when you're not here? No, the answer is no. You didn't listen yesterday.
No, I didn't listen yesterday.
Well, okay.
But
So,
I have often listened. I don't always listen when I'm not here, but if I'm not here, it normally means that I'm doing something that can't allow me to be here. So,
by the way, I noticed YouTube has these shows.
Yeah, we're uploading to YouTube now. Yep.
Ooh.
We're getting pretty fancy. We're on YouTube
well,
now.
You always have been pretty fancy. But.
Oh, okay. But anyway, I appreciate you taking the time. And you just heard an intro there where the guy said, now the president of the Not a Good Enough Christian Club. That's true. There is a Not a Good Enough Christian Club.
That's true, but I want to know what Andy thinks about it.
It's on Facebook, and I'm the president of it because it's the only way. It's the only way Christianity works for me right now. And the operative phrase is right now. I really don't feel like I'm a good enough Christian. I used to think I was a pretty gosh darn good Christmas.
Probably better
Christian.
Thinking you're not good enough, and because we are sinners and it's only by grace. So we aren't good enough. None of us are.
I mean, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 Christians here. And I can tell you I'm the worst out of all of you.
I don't know about that.
Oh, yeah, you're a better guy than
Well, I don't know. Paul said he was kind of the worst, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did say that.
He did say that.
So
he's worse.
what do you? I don't want to go heavy into this, but you probably don't agree with that comment, do you?
I absolutely do agree with that. I'm not a good enough Christian either.
Okay.
I fail every day.
Yeah.
But that's in your eyes, and that's in man's eyes, right?
Yeah, see, his argument with me is that God, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you don't think God likes that I say that.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he sees us differently than we see each other.
I understand that.
If he's loving, if he's a truly loving God, which he is, then doesn't he make us good enough?
He makes us good enough, but by myself, I'm not a good enough Christian.
Okay.
By
That's a good explanation.
in my human form, walking on this earth for 53 years, I'm not good enough.
But to him, you're good enough.
And the more I learn about being like Jesus,
he's thinking.
The more I learn about being like Jesus, the worse I get.
I don't agree with that, Matt, because in our men's group, and I don't remember the discussion, but there was the 4 of us in a small group, and we were all undercutting ourselves, and all of a sudden you stood up and said, no, you are all great men, and you went through and you started saying all these good things about it, and I was like, wow, I was like happy for a second from the vision, your godly vision that you presented to us, and I think all 3 of us were happy.
And that comes from the fact that for most of my life, I mean, I'm the biggest sucker punch dude on the face of the earth because I took it just like Eve did. The serpent, the accuser presented himself to me over and over and over, and I thought it was the real thing. I thought he imitated God perfectly. And when I realized that voice, that relationship that I had in my head was a relationship with the accuser and not of God, I then realized what you just said, Bob, that God loves me.
You're already
and
admitting
that I'm an
you're a better
amazing
Christian.
creature created in his own image. What?
You're already admitting that you might have to resign as president.
No,
have
I
a new
won't.
election.
I'll never resign. I'll resign when I find somebody worthy of that title. And so far, I don't know anybody yet.
I think we probably see ourselves. We probably are a little bit self-depreciating, in that we're harder on ourselves than God is. Probably.
But is that a false humility when we put ourselves down?
Maybe. I'm gonna have to give that some thought. That's a
but
great
Bob,
question,
let me tell
Bob.
you something. The biggest problem we have in this world is when I hold a mirror up to somebody and they get offended by what they see. Right? Happens all the time. We say something to everything from our wife to our children to our siblings. People we're supposed to have permission to say things like that to, let alone the jerk on the skywalk. And you hold up that mirror and they get offended by what they see. Now think about that for a minute. But they're offended at me.
Because you revealed them.
I held up a mirror. They shoot the messenger. So anyway. All right. A couple more questions before we get to some questions. When I read the Bible, besides understanding what I'm reading, I like to find the different definitions of words and what they may have meant. What was the one we learned this morning in men's group that was really good? Oh shoot. A word that we thought, in God, in David, something about a favor in God's eyes or God's heart.
He's a man after God's own heart. David was.
Right, and that doesn't mean, come on, you were there, brother.
I know.
That doesn't mean that
he was sin-free. He was not.
No, that isn't how David saw God. That's how God saw David.
Yeah.
Well, that was a light bulb for me this morning. But anyway, that's the way I like to read the Bible.
Yeah.
So if I'm taking notes on the side, I'm taking notes on what those words mean. All right. As an apologist, Do you read the Bible differently? Are there verses and things that pop out at you that you go, aha, there's the answer to atheist question number 97?
Sometimes I will read the Bible in that way. Usually when I'm studying something specific, and I'll be looking for something that could possibly address a certain question. But other times I'll just read the Bible for pleasure and for self exhortation and self just lifting myself up. I was reading in the Psalms just today, and just to encourage myself. But yeah, usually when I read the Bible, I will try to get a better understanding of whatever it is I'm reading, and read it with that in mind. And usually the context is the most important thing as far as that sort of stuff goes. So it just depends on the mood and depends on what I'm doing at that moment, I guess. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it does. I mean,
but you also read for revelation too, right?
Oh yeah, illumination. I would call it illumination.
Oh, you don't
as
call it
opposed-
revelation?
The Bible does teach that revelation there is going to be no more new revelation. It's just illumination of what's already been revealed. That's the way I look at it, I guess.
I can buy that, I guess.
Unless you're Mormon and you think that the newest revelation is the best
latest,
revelation.
the latest thing.
Yeah, God now says this, which is different than what he said back then.
He's not going to. Right.
So Mormon Church just a bunk to you?
It.
My words, not yours.
Yes, I would say that the Mormon Church has some good stuff, but the bad stuff is. Well, I mean, if you put a little bit of mud in some water, are you going to drink it? No, because it's muddy water.
But are they going to fall short of the kingdom?
Yeah, because they teach a doctrine of works based salvation, and they do not teach the God of the Judeo-Christian Bible.
All right, Andy
in my
Alexander.
opinion.
We call him Alexander the Great is in the house. He's an apologist. He defends the Christian religion. He defends the Bible. What's the most common question that you get from those wonderful atheists out there? What do they think that when they throw that question at you, that they're going to hang you up big time?
Yeah, probably the question I get the most would be the question: if God is perfectly good, if he's all powerful, he's all loving, then why is there evil? And I was just reading an article this morning, actually, that somebody put in the New York Times yesterday about that question. God can't be perfect because there's evil in the world, basically. Because if he's perfect, meaning he's good, meaning he's all powerful, then there would not be evil if he was indeed perfect, because he would have made the world absolutely perfect in the sense that there would be no possibility for there to be evil in the world. So that's a question that you get a lot from the atheist and agnostic perspective.
So why is there evil then?
Because there's free will.
Okay.
Because Adam and Eve were given the choice. The tree in the garden represents choice, whether you believe it's figurative or literal. It's the representation of choice. You can either choose to obey my word, or you can choose to not obey my word. And God, in order for there to be love, in order for there to be a relationship, there had to be choice. If you tied your wife up in the garage and people came over, or if I won't use you, I'll use me now that I'm married. I used to use other people's wives.
Oh, don't pick on poor Emily. Pick on me.
If I tied my wife up in the garage and whenever people came home, I took them out to the garage and said, "Hey, this is my wife. She loves me, don't you, honey?" That would not be love. That would be coerced something, but you can't call it love.
Well, what if she liked it? Never mind.
It's still not love.
That was a one-liner that don't deserve an answer.
It's still not love. So God does not do that with us. God is a loving being, and he gives us the choice to either serve him or to not serve him. And ultimately, because there's free will in the world, there is evil. But ultimately, there will not be evil in the world because God will overcome evil.
So running on that rabbit trail, why in this experiment called humanity and humans and earth. Why did God want evil? So we'd have to make a choice and choose him?
I don't necessarily.
That's a really self-centered dude.
I don't necessarily think he wanted there to be evil. But because he gave us free will, evil became a necessary outcome. Does that make sense?
Sure.
In other words, I don't think there's any way that God could have made us with free will and for there to not have been us making the choice of evil.
So why did God give us free will? Why did he want that?
Because he wanted a relationship with us.
Okay.
And without free will,
there is no love.
Value. Say that again?
It wasn't just for entertainment value.
No.
See, I sometimes think, and this isn't a biblical worldview, so it's just me, with stinking thinking. But I sometimes think this whole thing was just to entertain God because he was bored.
No, he's not a big cosmic kid playing with his toys.
He's not. Okay.
No.
Andy Alexander is our guest today. He's an apologist. You already knew that. He's the lovely husband of Emily. Bob Monser at the Cat in the Hat watching the chat. Anything going? Are these people on the chat doing anything other than saying "Go Big Red"? Glad you beat Iowa.
No, Chris is on.
Okay.
Chris Roloff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions from him?
Well, he
Not
says hi,
really.
Mac. He says hi, Andy.
Hi, Chris.
Army Brad, of course, is in the house, as well as Ryan, who's producing today for Father Tattoo, because Father Tattoo's number one job is being a dad. And one of his kids is sick today, and so he's home with his dad. And I think that's awesome, man. I really do. That's the love that a father needs to show when their child needs you the most. We're coming back. More questions. You got one, call it in, throw it on chat. Alexander the Great in the house on KTIA Iowa, powered by webcast1live.com.
Do you ever get tired of pretending that life is perfect? If what they see isn't how you feel, God knows, and He understands. Chat now with someone who cares at groundwire.net.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Get away from us, you needle credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker-owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
3:38:22 before the top Salem Radio Network news at the top of the hour, and then True Blue, hosted by Michael Mudloff. Let me give you an idea of what's coming up here the rest of this week. Got some good shows. Tomorrow, Tom Coates is in with one of our favorite friends, Rob Tolley, who's the former head of the Democratic Party, and we're going to unpack this election. That's about all I can stand to do on this. Tom Clegg and the history of religion inside of Des Moines and central Iowa, Ames, Boone, Fort Dodge, that area. That's coming up on Thursday. And then Friday, Mark Augsburger is in. So exciting week. Really getting some good guests lined up over the next couple of months. So appreciate you taking the time to listen. Our guest today is Andy Alexander. He is an apologist. And you had a comment on chat, Mr. Montserrat.
Yeah, Chris is kind of saying things like choice, free will.
Yeah, as a Calvinist, they don't believe in choice or free will.
Correct. Do you want me to expound?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, Calvinists would say that everything has been predetermined by God to fall as it's going to. I do not take that position. I'll tell a story. I was in a discussion with a college student who was what I would call uber Calvinist or literal 5-point Calvinist. I think Pastor Mudloff is a 5-point Calvinist,
yes.
isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he's one of those. And I asked this. So we were talking about this. We were talking with this college student, and I don't remember how I got into the conversation, how it started. But we were talking about evil, and I asked her a question that if she believed that God, when He created Adam and Eve, if God created evil. And she said that yes, God did ultimately cause Adam and Eve to sin, and He did ultimately cause Satan to fall because He predetermined those outcomes. And to me, that just does not mesh at all with what the Bible tells us about the nature of God and the will of God, because there's a verse that says that it's not God's will that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. And so if it's not God's will for any to perish, why would God have caused, by allowing sin to come into the world, if He predetermined everything?
So where did...
So basically God would be going against His own will if that were actually the case.
So you're saying Satan, the great accuser, used his free will to defy God, and that's how evil was invented.
Evil came into the earth through Adam and Eve's sin.
Okay.
Evil existed through in the spiritual realm when Satan fell. When Satan tempted Adam and Eve, they ultimately disobeyed God, and that brought death and evil and destruction into the world. And it was all through choice. Evil did exist before Adam and Eve fell, but not in the world as far as the physical realm. In the spiritual realm, it existed in Satan.
All right, now I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I hear you saying is that if you're a Calvinist, you think that God created evil.
Ultimately, that's where the logic would follow, yes, because God predestined Adam and Eve, predetermined that they would sin, and He created the world, and He created it with this plan that, okay, Adam and Eve on this day and at the tree, they're going to sin, and through that, sin, death, destruction, sickness, disease, war, famine, all these things are going to come into existence. And so that's what a Calvinist would say. What I would say is that God didn't necessarily determine that would happen. He knew that it was going to happen, but just because he knew that it was going to happen does not mean that God determined that that's what absolutely would happen.
All right, so
and there's a difference. For example, if you say you TiVo a football game, say you TiVo'd
Right.
the Iowa-Nebraska football game last
Wonderful.
weekend.
I agree.
Because
Great game.
you were with family,
Best
you didn't
game
have time
ever. Long as I've lived.
to watch it live, and so you recorded it on your DVR or whatever, and
Or
you
just
watched
to watch it
later.
over and over again.
Right, and
Yeah.
and you didn't want anybody to tell you, but you always have that one friend that calls you up and said, "Hey, the Huskers won," or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, "No, I didn't want to know," but you still go home and you watch the game. So you already know what the outcome's going to be, but just because you know what the outcome's going to be, does that mean that you determined what the outcome would be?
Right.
Absolutely not. Now, that's not a perfect analogy, but I think it's a pretty good one.
So that's the difference between a Calvinist and what would you call yourself?
I'm not the ultimate extreme would be an Arianist.
Well, but you're not an extreme.
No, I'm not. In some areas, yes, but not this one probably. But I don't really know what classification I would be. I just know that I'm definitely not a Calvinist.
Ryan, what?
I want to ask you, Andy.
Yes, Ryan.
Now, he's a Calvinist.
I think my mic is bad, but
No, you're okay.
What is your definition of God determining something?
Well, what is the Calvinistic definition of God determining something?
Because as you were describing the difference between foreknowing and determining it to happen, how I would define it is that God does know what is going to happen. How does he know how that is going to happen? How can that thing ever happen that he knows is going to happen without God existing beforehand? Now, that doesn't mean that God caused everything to happen. He does know, and I believe that he can determine things to happen, in my definition of determine, which is probably different than yours, without causing it to happen.
How is that possible, logically speaking? How can God determine that this is going to happen without causing that to happen, and by his determining it to be so?
Because sin is I don't know how you termed it. It's an unwanted result or something. How did you term that?
I can't remember what verbiage I used.
Yeah, but you worded it right, that in order for God to glorify himself, Trinitarian definition wise, so it's not selfish at all. In order for God to glorify himself, sin to glorify himself with the believers by giving him his grace, and they with their free will in turn praising God, they would have to have free will, and thus sin is a necessity. That is God determining that to happen, but not necessarily causing it. Is that what would you disagree with my definition of determine?
Yeah, I would say that I would disagree with your definition of determine, because I mean, if I determine that I'm going to hit Mac in the face, I cause that to happen through my will. I will it to be, and if God is sovereign in that sense of sovereignty, then he would cause that to happen through his will. That does not necessarily mean that human free will overrides the will of God, in that we are usurping his power and his authority by that. But what it does mean is that God allows our free will choices to take precedent, because he's not a forceful God. He's not forcing himself on us, and he does allow us that free will.
He knows what's going to happen, but he didn't cause it to happen. Free will made it to happen.
Correct.
So I'm not
choice made it happen.
I'm not
Free
really
will.
married to my soulmate.
I reject the notion of a soulmate. That's a Hollywood there was only one time in human history where there was one perfect woman for one perfect man and vice versa, and that was Adam and Eve.
Okay.
After that, it's choice.
347. Alexander the Great, an apologist, on the air with us. As always, we're going to run out of time before we get to all the good stuff. But if you've got a question, make sure you get it in. 244-0077 on the chat at The View from a Pew. I'm Mac. Thanks for listening. We're coming back right after this with more on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Okay, we are back. It's 3:50, 11:27 in November 12/12 or 2012. Shoot, 12/12. Hey, how are you? All right, let's go to the phones where Deb is standing by, and Deb's got a couple questions for Alexander the Great. Deb, are you there?
I am.
All right, go ahead, Deb.
Oh, okay. I have been called a Calvinist. I wouldn't call myself a Calvinist, although I do believe that God does predestine and predetermine things. And the biggest thing, obviously, would be Jesus Christ himself. But you said that the only soulmates that God orchestrated were Adam and Eve. And I'd like to point to the bloodline of Jesus Christ as God orchestrating other perfect soulmates by use of famine and war and various things for him to get together perfect soulmates.
Possibly, but I think you're beginning with your assumption that God is predetermining these things by using these certain outcomes to get these people together, and you're completely ignoring the fact that those people did choose to fall in love and make a baby with that individual. So I think you're beginning with your assumption that you're trying to prove, and so the logical fallacy that you're using there is the begging the question fallacy, where that you begin with the assumption that you're starting to prove, and so it's circular logic basically.
Well, and you begin with the assumption that the Western mindset of falling in love is how it was in Palestine,
right,
2,000 years ago,
right,
and that is illogical. People didn't, I'm sorry, but love played almost virtually no factor in some of some of the unions. Not all of them, but some of them.
Well, I think in the example of Ruth and Boaz, we absolutely see an incredible story of love, and I think, there have been Hollywood movies that have been made out of it, and they probably take some artistic liberty. But in some of those stories, there was absolutely the choice to love somebody. But ultimately, whether or not you're choosing to love them, you're choosing to be in a relationship with them, whether there's love in that relationship or not, there is choice in every single one of those relationships. So you can't really deny the fact that there's human choice involved.
Okay. So when you read in Acts, when was it? My goodness, I can't think of. I think it was Peter who stood up and said that Christ was predestined to go to the cross. Would you disagree with that?
I don't recall where in Acts Peter would have said.
I believe it's in either 4 or 5, chapter 4 or 5. Unfortunately, I'm driving.
Oh yeah, no.
Don't take your hands off the wheel.
Yeah,
we want you there.
You'd have to look at the context of the verse, of the passage. I can try to find it. We have one more break?
No.
Oh, we're okay. You'd have to look at the context of the verse and figure it out. But Jesus was, the ultimate plan for Jesus was to go to the cross. Absolutely, I think that was a predetermined thing. There's a difference in foreknowing, knowing that something's going to happen, and causing it to happen. So I think, and I didn't really plan on getting into the whole free will debate. You'd have to look at those verses on an individual basis and find the context of it. But just because Jesus was pre-decided that he would go to the cross.
That's the word used, predestined.
Right. Just because it was predestined that Jesus would go to the cross doesn't mean that everything in the world, in the history of the world, was predestined to happen. It's a powerful God that can determine everything in the history of the world that's going to happen, but it's even more powerful God that can take human free will and allow us to make decisions on our own and still come out with the exact same story that he had in turn determined to decide. So you just have to Again, it goes back to God's will is that none should perish. If we know that that's God's will because the Bible tells us so, then why are there people that perish? That would mean that God, if God predetermined them to perish, that would mean that God is going against his own will.
So with Andy Alexander's our guest today, and we lost Deb on the phone right now. So you're saying that our free will creates history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And God just knows the choices we've made.
Yes, absolutely.
So when the drunken driver hits the 2 teenage girls and they're both killed, I could look at the parents of those girls and say, God had nothing to do with this.
Right.
God will greet your children at the gates of heaven and take care of them forever and ever.
Absolutely.
But So when what about Jeremiah 29:11-14? That I have a plan for you.
Who was that spoken to?
Jeremiah.
Okay, so God had a plan for Jeremiah.
Right.
Jeremiah chose to obey God and fit within that plan. Do you think God has a plan for? Do you think God had a plan for that drunk driver to kill those 2 girls? Do you think that was God's plan?
No.
Okay, so that man, God's plan for that man was to come to repentance, come to a knowledge of God, and obey the gospel. He did not follow the plan. He chose to disobey the plan of God.
Okay.
So
And
God had a
then
plan
evil
for
wins.
Right. In that guy's life, yes.
I don't care whether you're a 5-point Calvinist or you're a, what do you call yourself?
I don't know what classification I would be.
Either one, we got a lot of responsibility, to our fellow man. We can't just be going out and making crappy decisions and going, oh, well,
Right.
God's plan.
Well, that's true. Can't do that.
But God's will, and we got to be careful on time here. If I do God's will, I'm following God's plan.
If you obey, yes. If you obey the gospel, yes, you're following His plan.
I think that's the key word.
If, yes.
All right. If he, okay. All right. You got to come back again. You can't come back every 6 months and do this to me.
We'll come back and talk about Calvinism.
Yeah. Now I'm just all messed up. Okay. Thank you, Andy, for being here.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Love to see you. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat. Thanks for watching the chat. Army Brad, as always, glad to have you here. And Ryan, a special thanks to you for filling in today for Father Tattoo. And for you, I just have one request. I mean, I know there's a lot of things I could ask you to listen more, and I could ask you to the advertisers that you hear, please respond to them and take care of those advertisers by doing patronage with him, so that helps the Truth Network. I could ask you for all those things, but I really ask you for one thing. Please pray. Have a great day.